Welcome, friends. LostScarf here, and it's time for us to have basically a podcast with Jacqueline Joy, community manager, community developer, and a bad influence because we're drinking.
I didn't make him do it, I swear.
You didn't make me pour this entire thing. That looks like water,
That was all
but
you.
does not taste like water. Okay. Well, if the guest wants to drink, well, I better be on an even playing field. Alright, so we're going to talk about community questions, developer questions, because I know you've been doing some developer classes and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really worth talking about. It's always worth talking about just people who are actually in the business. Very interesting to see your outlook on things. And the first thing I want to talk about is, it's been a couple months now, so how's Halcyon 6 doing and like the company itself? Like, how does a company work after it's been a couple months after a game's done? Are they just working on the next thing? They're bugs fixing? What are they doing? Like, what do you do?
We are working on another project as well, and we're also still working on Halcyon 6, keeping up with updates and providing bug fixes, and then we have a DLC actually coming along the way. And we're still working on a lot of things I can't really announce yet, but hopefully it'll be announced soon. But we're just in that space right now where we're just hunkering down and just basically taking through a lot of the work. And hopefully we'll be able to announce any news soon, hopefully. I'm so bad at keeping secrets, but I gotta try extra hard.
Yeah, don't want you to get in trouble, of course.
Yes.
But you drink enough, we're going to get in trouble at some point, I'm sure about that.
Uh-oh.
So you're working on the game, you have another one going, and actually this leads to a question, is how early is too early to let people know about your game? Because I feel like the big example people use is Gigantic. They put that one out years way ahead. Yeah,
it depends on your marketing plan. I know some studios, they've started posting about their work right at the start of development. I don't know if you've heard of Ooblets.
I think that's from
it's
Tim Schafer's group, right?
I forgot. It's an iOS game. Also, I think it's also coming to Steam as well, if I'm not mistaken. I could be, but it's a kind of like Animal Crossing in a way.
And it's gonna be a mix.
Exactly. And then basically, I think I remember following their development since day one. So I think it really depends on your plan. But I know that most indie devs, they usually share their work right on day one, sharing all tweeting all these GIFs and just I guess blogging about it. But I guess for everyone, there needs to be a plan in place first before, because you have to be strategic about how you share things sometimes. Well, that's what I think. You can't just I guess blurb about it randomly. Well, you could, I guess. It works for some people, but I guess games marketing is so important right now that the way that you execute your strategy is just as important as the game development itself.
Definitely, especially with how worried are you about getting noticed, considering that 20, 30, 40 games are coming out every day?
Well, the thing is that we also had a good rep with Halcyon 6, so hopefully that builds trust in us as developers with our audience, and hopefully they'll play our next game. Yeah.
It's definitely, I feel like when you have a pedigree, it does help you a lot more because you have a following to start from.
Yeah. As long as you have a portfolio of games that people have played before, then it'll be easier to get into that, access that niche or our audience.
So it would be a lot scarier if Halcyon 6 was coming out now and not earlier.
Yeah. Well, it really depends. I guess for us, we're still updating Halcyon 6 and coming out with updates and downloadable content. So I guess we have a really good access to our following, so I wouldn't be scared or anything. Yeah.
Okay. Because there's just so many games coming out there, and
and also there's conventions as well. If you go to a convention, you get a lot of coverage from the press and also consumers who play your games too.
That's true. How important is conventions? Because one example is Yacht Club games. When they were coming out with Shovel Knight, they did their Kickstarter and it was doing okay, but they weren't sure if they were going to make it. And then they went to PAX, and then their Kickstarter blew up.
Oh yeah, PAX is like a really, really, it's like a really, really good convention, I guess, for indie developers. And also, they also have like PAX East, PAX West, PAX South. I don't know if they have a PAX North. I'm pretty sure they have a PAX North. But
Understood.
yeah. But even like for us, when we went to Gamescom, it was like a really big. I guess we had a wider access to our audience because apparently, like a lot of German people like to play strategy games, and I didn't know that. So yeah, we had a really good time at Gamescom, but which
Now,
I think I talked about in the last podcast. I
I'm
think it
trying
was
to
a while
remember.
ago.
I'm not sure how much. I know we talked about it maybe a little
Yeah.
bit, but just in case I forgot to ask it, like, how intimidating is Gamescom? Because it's just gigantic, right? Like, it's the biggest one.
Yeah, I think it had like 360,000 people attending.
Woo!
And for us, we worked the booth every single day, I think for like 10 hours straight. Like sorry, not 10 hours. Well, it was around 10 hours, but like basically it was like five of us. We just took turns like manning the booth. And like by the end of that, I was just like all socialed out. I just like flopped onto bed. I was just like, dead completely. But like it's a lot of people because like for every new person that comes to your booth, you have to like tell them about your game. And like since for us it was like a strategy game, right? So like it was a lot of explaining to do. We made like one thing I would have done differently for next con, I guess, like is to have like a more I guess instructional demo. So because then for us like for our game it's like a lot to take in since like they throw you right in and you have to like do all these tasks not to like die basically. But like for us like we had to explain what our game was about. It's about like strategy and like resource management. You have to fly around, blah blah blah. Like we spent at least I think 5 to 10 minutes or even more, like I think minimum like 10 minutes on each person, like explaining what the game was about. So it was really tiring. And like by the end of the day, like our voices were all dead from talking too much.
Dang.
And then we had to like go to socialize after. But
Yeah, for networking and all the stuff for your game and everything. Jeez.
Yeah, but it was really fun because like everyone was so supportive and everyone was so excited. So you kind of get into that atmosphere and spirit. Yeah.
That's good. Because, like, okay, so you don't have like a specific demo for Halcyon 6?
Like we made a build for it, but it was just like basically the tutorial, and like we loaded up some saves from the game in which like we can just take the players there, and then they can basically just like play the game on their own. But like some of them didn't know what they're doing because since it's a strategy game, you have to like when you jump right in, it's like a lot to do right off the bat. Like you have to check your planets, and you have to check like your crew. You also have to check like what's attacking you. So yeah, it's a lot to manage.
Yeah. Definitely a lot going on. I remember I was at Comic-Con, Clay, they did Oxygen Not Included, and their demo was like a 30-minute demo.
Oh, wow.
So you just sat there for 30 minutes and you could just do whatever, and if the person left, then you could just reset the demo. But that's how they mapped theirs out, so it's interesting seeing just different demos. Yeah. Some are just drop in and just do whatever's there and stuff like that. Just interesting. Okay, just out of curiosity, are they adding more random events to Halcyon 6? Just out of curiosity, or
adding more
like the random events, like the O'Brien clones and things like that.
They're procedurally generated, so I guess like it just picks from like a random bunch. But like I think yes, we are adding some more random events, but I think it's like included in the DLC.
Okay, because those are hilarious. Those are pretty fun.
Yeah. our game writer Peter, he's really funny guy. So he's the one who's like writing all the narratives for Halcyon 6.
Yeah. Oh, now I know. Day 1 of Gamescom to day 5 of Gamescom. So as you're explaining the game, you must have like found like sharper ways to explain things or more clearly, or just improving over the time. But one question is, okay, I gotta ask this. Like, what is just someone you really don't want to see at your booth? Like,
we haven't had really like anyone who was like vocally negative, like, oh, this game is so shitty and it sucks. Like we've had people who are like, oh, it's a strategy game, it's a little bit boring, not for me. Like it's fine. Like we get like strategy games aren't for everyone, and it's fine. Because like before, like I never really played strategy games, but that was because I'm just bad at strategy. But like it's something that you have to get used to, like once you play more, right? Since it's a part of my job now. So I actually love strategy games, but before I thought that they were boring and I didn't like them as much.
Oh.
But now I actually love them because it kind of calls for me to be like better at planning and like I guess like forward thinking in the future and planning for things. So yeah, it actually that did teach me a lot about life too. I guess in terms of like forward thinking. So yeah.
Okay, I now have a good question. That is, how useful is just feedback at cons for developing the game, like, or just making things more user friendly and stuff like that?
Oh, it's super useful. We usually let the players like go off on their own and play the game for a while and see, if they struggle anywhere or if they have any like I guess pain points in which like they weren't be able to progress from like a certain point. Like I noticed some players they were like clicking back and forth between things because they weren't sure what the buttons meant. And like we also use like left click and right click, so sometimes they get confused because for some strategy games like I think you press like right click to like confirm something or to move somewhere, and like people were just like doing that as well. And then I was just like, oh, okay. So I had to like step in and just like explain a little bit more. But yeah, but generally, like overall, we had like a really good reception of Halcyon 6. Because people were like, oh, pixel art, cute. Gory deaths, cute. Like in pixel art format, I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're like, and also like it's turn-based, and there's like sci-fi, like spaceships and aliens. So that really like, I guess they really like that.
Oh,
So, yeah.
Interesting. Because like usually RTS, right click is to move, left click is select.
Mhm.
But in like strategy, right click's usually to cancel. So I'm kind of surprised like they're having trouble with
I
that. Because
think
like
I
right
played
click
different
cancel.
games because I'm like, or maybe for me, my experience growing up from what I remember, like, because that's why I shied away from like a lot of strategy games because like the buttons confuse me sometimes.
Hmm.
And same with MOBAs too, like when I was younger. But now I guess I changed. So yeah.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
I guess it like does call that like UX and also UI is really important. Mhm.
Now, I do want to ask developer questions. You were taking developer classes, specifically VR, or just there was just VR with it as well?
Yeah, it was like specifically for VR. It was with an organization called Dames Making Games. And like they're like a Toronto-based organization that like teaches people how to like code and make games. It was really nice.
That's really cool. And so like UI, that's just that's what's the word here? It's user interface.
Mhm.
And then UX would be
User experience.
huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh Curiosities on so like how is VR development different from just regular development?
Mm. Well, I guess it's just like a separate, or I'm not exactly sure. I guess it's like a different port because like for me, I'm not really a coder, so like for me, it's just like all spaghetti to me when I look at it. But I think it's just for VR, you just have to like kind of choose like how you want to like port your game into because we use Unity to develop our game, or like everyone had a separate project in class, and then like we all use Unity. And we had to use like in a short amount of time we had to learn how to like 3D model things and like animate them and like how to put like shaders and stuff. That was really confusing because at that time I was in Gamescom, so I missed a lot of the classes.
Oh.
So I tried to catch up, but it was like a little bit difficult for me as well. But like taking away from the class, it was definitely a good way to kickstart, I guess, your career in game development, or either like even like VR game development if you really want to. But obviously, you have to put in like extra hours to get where you want to be. Because I know like some people at the end of the class, we had like a little like show for everyone's projects, whether it was like done or not. And some people like finished on time. That was really cool. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see VR where do you see VR going as far as development goes in gaming and things like that? Like how far do you think it can go, or is it limited by technology or by imagination?
Right. Like, who knows? We could be in VR right now. Like, we don't know about that. Maybe it's gotten too real that we can't tell, and we're just like, in a simulation. But yeah, I think it can get pretty real as soon as like hardware, like refines itself to like maybe like just wearing Ray-Bans or even like contact lenses or something. But that obviously it'll take a while. But I think like more like as the technology improves for it, like the hardware, definitely there'll be more content creators coming out to play. So yeah, I'm really excited for the future of VR and AR as well.
Huh.
Mm.
So I'm wondering, what is just because you might know the cost to entry here? Like, if you wanted to develop in VR, uh,
Mhm.
what is the cost there? Like,
Um, it depends on like what you want to do, or I guess like right now to develop for VR, like you can start with just like a Google Cardboard, and that's like I think it's either free or it's like really cheap, like under $20.
I think it's under 20, yeah, because I
Yeah.
have one, but
Okay.
it's been a while.
Yeah. But it's like that's a really good starting point if you want to get into VR. And I also know there's like Samsung Gear VR as well. That was the one that I started with. I think for my Note 4, I don't remember. It was a while ago. But that's also like a pretty good starting point because I remember watching a lot of videos through the Samsung Gear VR. But you can also plug that into your computer. Actually, no, sorry, it was a Google Cardboard because I took another workshop before this one, and we actually worked with a Google Cardboard. And like I made like a little underwater shooter game, and I ported it to the Google Cardboard. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but like you can either work with those or you can like, you know, play with like HTC Vive or the Oculus and develop for that. So it really depends on your experience and what you want to do with it.
All right, cool. Because I am curious about that for just anyone who's actually interested in VR development specifically. What would be just the cost to entry? Because that's one of the things is how cheaply can you do it, but how well can you do it on a cheap price?
I think the most expensive thing is time. So if you devote a lot of time, but like Unity is free to download for anyone. And also they have like an extensive script library. So, and a very supportive community. So if you're ever in need of like any help or any questions, like they're always there. But like personally for me, I like using Unreal, which is also free to use. Basically because they have like their blueprints and it's like kind of easy to like connect things. But like I'm still working on it, but like I find it a lot more user friendly than Unity for me. But it's different for
Nice.
everyone. Yeah.
One thing about that is just Unity has an image problem, and that's because of the asset flippers and all that stuff going on. It's kind of like, is Unity the lowest skill floor to get into? And because of the asset store and just being able to buy all these things that you might not be able to do, that helps because you can get things that you're like, well, I'm not really good at coding this specific thing, so I can actually just buy it. And the idea is the Unity store is just to allow people kind of just buy and sell whatever trade they need to make a game. And that's a nice thing, ideally, but then you have people do the asset flips and it just ruins everything. So do you think Unity has like an image problem and it's on them to do something about it, or just everyone?
I don't know, because like I think the good thing about Unity is that they also have like a very like kind of like user generated support in which everyone that's a developer jumps on board to help each other. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I guess
it's certainly a good thing.
In the end, it depends like what you wanted, like how you interpret it. Because I guess for like beginner developers who are getting into it, there definitely is more of a support system. So it really depends on everyone's learning style as well. Because some people might be more, I guess, maybe more keen to using Unreal versus Unity. I don't know. There's always I heard about like this really big debate between like Unity and Unreal a while back, and I'm not sure if you heard of that one. It was a while back though, a long time ago.
Okay,
but people were just saying like we're just trying to compare which one was better, but it's not about like what's better. It's about like what is best for the experience that you want to create.
Okay. Yeah, because my concern is you'll have gamers who'll be like, oh, it's made in Unity, and then they just don't care.
And it's kind of like just shit on their game and like hate it for being made on Unity when they don't even know. Like we like I was just like reading some of the articles and stuff. I was just like shaking my head. I was like, oh, you guys don't. But like in the end, it really depends what you want to do. And like I don't think either engine is better than the other. But like for me, like preferably I would use Unreal because it's more user friendly to me. But that was it.
Because I'm very much a layman on this. I'm learning it as I talk to you and other
Cool.
people. So Unity's free and also Unreal, they're both free.
Hmm.
And so anyone could just, well, right now you can download it and just experiment with it and play with it and try to make something.
Hmm.
That's cool. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So
You play around with it. Like in Unreal, I kind of like I guess like I made a little house and stuff, and then I put I attached my HTC Vive to like the computer, and I actually could walk around in like my little house that I made, and just like
cool.
look at things. So that was like the beginning for me, and that was like what got me into it.
That's cool. That's so cool. Okay. Yeah, that's just cool.
Yeah.
Just way to put it.
Yeah, but you can also do that with like your cardboard as well, and also the Samsung Gear VR. Mhm.
Huh. As far as like developing goes, for anyone who just wants to dive in and maybe just either not really self-taught, but not necessarily, are there just free resources to try to learn how to do development and stuff like that, just online or anything?
Like for me, I just type it up on YouTube, and pretty much
Hmm.
like everything is there for me.
I suppose that's true. Just
Yeah,
Google it.
yeah. Like I don't have any like anyone specific. Like I just go on YouTube and just like type in the first thing, and I just that's how I solve all my problems. YouTube and Google. It's like, how
Yeah,
do I do this?
I think that would have been the better question. Is there anyone specific who's good at teaching that
Ah,
as a free
hang
resource?
on. Let me double check because I remember like since VR development is kind of new right now, there's a lot of like I guess developers on YouTube who give tutorials. I remember following a couple of them, but I don't recall. Because I remember I follow one guy who specifically like draws on tilt brush, and that's all he does. And then after I think he ports them over to Unity and animates them. But I can't seem to recall his name because I follow a million people on YouTube.
That's how it
Ah,
is.
but I know there's like another um, Oculus Quill user called I think Goro Fujita, and he basically draws on the Oculus Rift, their app for 3D drawing. I think it's called Quill. It's like kind of
Ooh.
like Tilt Brush, but it's like for Oculus Rift. And he like draws like these immaculate worlds, and like you can go like so deep into the worlds. Hang on, let me a video. I love his stuff.
Okay.
Goro
That's
Fujita.
interesting.
Yeah. Also, I'm gonna straighten my camera because I just realized I'm on a tilt and that's bothering me.
Yeah, just if you find them, give me the links. I'll put them in the
Yeah,
description.
I'll put it like right here. Oh, I don't
Yeah.
know if I
No, I'll put them in the.
Okay.
We can try that. I was
You know
just
how
saying the
people, the
description down
YouTubers go
below.
like,
But
do this and they go like this. I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah.
Oh dear. We'll see where we put it.
I'm
We'll see where we
embarrassing you,
put it.
aren't I?
Me. Okay. This is also fascinating. Very interesting. Because the podcast is about creators and learning about different forms of creation and just creation in games and creation in VR development. Because VR is the big thing right now.
Mhm,
Well, it's not right. Everything's a big thing in gaming, but
mhm,
VR is something new to play with, and it's very interesting.
mhm,
And just seeing the limits it can go,
mhm,
and just thinking about the what's the word here, the obstacles to entry to doing that. And you're
mhm,
saying Unity's free, Unreal's free, so that's pretty awesome right there.
mhm.
So anyone who's just interested in puttering around and playing around with that,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
So
Like I'm still
that's just
very new
fascinating.
to it myself, so I'm also trying to like every day, like I always find new apps that people introduce that help you like that makes like 3D modeling easier, so you can also make assets for your game as well. Because like doing all the art and all the coding and everything else for your game, it's like a lot of work. So it's nice that there are all these like free VR apps popping up that help you either like I guess it makes the process a lot easier.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the interesting thing is, of course, as things have gotten more advanced,
Mhm.
teams have just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and
Mhm.
collaborative and things like that.
Yeah.
When gaming first began with the arcade machines, it was one dude or
Mm.
two dudes,
Yeah.
and that was it. And
Yeah.
it's just fascinating seeing how far it's gone.
Mhm.
Because I went to a exhibit called Game Masters, and it was just basically the history of gaming from the arcade
Oh,
machines all the way to now.
wow.
And it was like, whoa! It's just crazy seeing one man or two dudes making a game. And a funny thing is, Konami, uh, they didn't allow the people who made the games to be named. they weren't credited. So it's just everything's made by
Wow.
Konami. You don't even know who made those things, which is fascinating.
Of course they would do that.
Because it's Konami.
Yeah.
Freaking Konami being Konami.
Yeah.
Question, is Halcyon 6 on the Switch or no, it's not. You guys try to get on the Switch?
We're working on a port. I'm not allowed to say anything else.
Okay. Because this is my favorite thing about the Switch is just the port. It's a port and it's portable port.
Yeah.
And like it feels like the place to be for indies on console right now because they can just game and go anywhere they want, and it's just awesome.
That's awesome. Like I don't have to Switch myself, but like I've seen a lot of people playing it like in public, and like it's pretty cool because then like I always like look over, I'm like, oh, what game are they playing? It's like, oh, it's Stardew Valley. That's cool. It's like I know that game, and then like it'll be exciting if we could see our game on that, and it'll be cool if I happen to walk by someone playing, on the Switch. I'll be like, hey, I'm part of the team that made that. But yeah,
that would be great. Out of curiosity, I don't like if you guys trying to make a port for Switch and everything. Not asking for confirm or denial on whether or not it has touch controls, but how difficult would adding touch controls be to a game like Halcyon 6?
Well, right now we're
it's already on tablet, huh?
Yeah, we're on iOS, so yeah, pretty easy.
My bad. I forgot.
No worries.
And it's perfect on there. It's really good to have it on there. It's already got portability. Yeah. So my bad on forgetting it's already on a tablet. So you already have that.
But the Switch is definitely like an excellent console to be on. I do agree with you.
And it's not Steam. Like Steam has a bajillion games, and it's not PlayStation Store, which has a bajillion games. Like this is right now. It's the new console. It has just a smaller, not as many games on there, and you'll definitely stand out in there.
I just heard it's like harder to get into Nintendo because they really gatekeep their games really well because it's like they want it to be family friendly, and so yeah, I just heard it's like a lot harder to get into Nintendo than it is versus other platforms.
Huh. And, well, they're having Dark Souls, so they're easing up a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, they also have Doom, so they're easing up.
It's definitely easing up now.
Yeah, so little pixel gore shouldn't be so bad.
Yeah,
shouldn't be too bad to have that.
Pixelated, cute, gory deaths, no problem.
Oh, this is strong.
Is it?
It's Saki after all. What is the most fascinating thing or most interesting thing about being a community manager?
Oh man, there's so many things. Definitely the way sometimes when you have to approach maybe how to solve a conflict, if any, or like I guess how to interact with people in such a way that they don't come off like I guess take away from the situation as a negative. Like because then we do experience bugs a lot, and then people report them in, and like obviously sometimes they're a little bit frustrated and they express that frustration. But like as like for me, I try to take up more of like an empathy based approach to communication because obviously no one likes to encounter bugs, especially on a game that you paid for. Sorry. And so for me, I guess the most challenging and interesting thing is how to, I guess, ease the tension that's sometimes caused. But for the most part, like our community, they're pretty good people. Like no one really rages at each other or at us. So it's a really nice community that we have. But I think the most like interesting thing would be try to, I guess, have like a good, I guess like a very proactive and empathy based mindset when dealing when talking to other players.
Huh. That's cool. Another question would be, so since you're a community manager, you're dealing with, I'd say, forums, right? And
yeah, forums and social media. And like sometimes it's really hard to like not create content. Well, I guess to create content because like there's so like, in like our digital age of like there's the vast wasteland of knowledge and like information that even when you create something, it's not always going to, I guess, like be like, I guess, get looked at sometimes.
Yeah.
Or like you have to keep on your toes in creating really good content to keep up with your audience because everyone's just like flipping through their screens, like just scrolling past and like I guess like the amount of time that they spend looking at like what you create is like so minimal compared to like a lot of the other content out there that's like backed by like huge teams who like spend days on creating like a perfect, video or something. So it is a challenge, like doing it as like I guess, doing it as a small team versus the big teams out there. But yeah, I guess the quest to always like create good content that's very relatable is always a very challenging thing that I face every day. I don't know if you also experience that as well, being a content creator yourself.
Yeah, because you have to get your name out there and everything, and it's very for like YouTube. It's like good thumbnail. You have to have like a really good thumbnail to get people to want to click, or title, thumbnail or title to get people interested.
This is true.
Because I was wondering,
clickbait titles.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy, but my God, does that work? Like,
really?
Ooh. Oh. Clickbait works very well because it's clickbait. It wouldn't be clickbait if it wasn't.
That's
effective.
True. I'm affected too. It's like those ads, like this dentist hates this mom for doing this thing. I'm just like, oh, why? Yeah. I click on it.
I'm like at the point where like I know it's clickbait, so I'll click on it less. So I feel like generations of getting more jaded, and they'll click on clickbait.
They're smarter
less.
now. They're smarter.
Yeah. So it requires more ways to clickbait, and I think visuals another way. And so that's what I'm wondering about. Like you're advertising Halcyon 6 on Twitter and on Facebook and everything. So like the first frame's got to be extremely important. Just like make them want to click on it. So yeah, it's just the perils and just the pressure of being worth looking at. Which
exactly.
It's a scary thing.
It is. And like also like I guess community management and just like content creation itself is like something that evolves every single day. Like what I know about community management like a year ago is completely different than it is today because there's so much more like new channels to promote on, and like everyone's attention span like changes by like the second. So it's like I guess it's really difficult to create content that's like or I'm not sure what content is what kind of content they would like to look at, I guess, in a sense. It's just like a lot of experimentation. It's like I hope that goes right.
I think the scary thing is just there's so many channels. Like just keeps growing and growing to figure out who to show the game to and who actually will probably cover your game.
Yeah.
And just like who probably won't, and so you're not wasting time on that. But like, do you have to I would assume you have to have some sort of cutoff or criteria, just whether or not it's the right way to do it. You just have to have something because there's just so much to deal with.
Yeah. Like sometimes, I guess for me, like I'm thinking of maybe going to Discord, like starting, I guess, like our own devs channel in case like because I've seen some game devs do that. They actually invite a bunch of people to a bunch of players to their channel, and then they can either play games with the devs or like either I guess give feedback. But like obviously the devs won't always reply, but it's just like another extra channel in case people want to, I guess, congregate there. Because I know the Steam forums for us, a lot of people post on it, but I don't feel like people usually talk to each other unless it's like someone asking for help or asking for a question. But I want to create more conversation around like, what are your favorite, officers? What's your favorite class? Like, what's your favorite skill kind of thing. But I feel like we don't get a lot of like conversation created around those things. So I kind of want to move the conversation there. I don't know. It's just like a lot of different, like just try to play around and see what gets people going. But like I posted like a tweet, I think like a day ago, like about like our precursor behemoths and our upcoming DLC, and that got pretty good reactions. So yeah. So that's like one thing I noticed, that people really like photos and videos. That's one.
That's so dang sure.
Yeah.
Because managing community is important, engaging community is important, and sometimes there's only so much you can do. Sometimes you just kind of need a superhero community member to get things rolling besides yourself.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's just kind of the perils, and just also I would assume because you said you had like a lot of German fan base, so just knowing what time to talk as well.
That's true, because like they are, I think 6 hours ahead. I'm 6 hours ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, because two of our team members are based in Germany, so like I think they're 6 hours ahead because they're up. Yeah, because I see them like type in Slack when it's like 3 a.m. I'm like, what? I was like, oh yeah, they're in Germany.
Hey, yeah. Another question would be communication between community managers of other games, like just like how's that? Like, do you guys? There's got to be times where you guys are talking. You're all just talking, and maybe talking about interactions you've had, or just maybe advice or tips for each other in dealing with community.
Yeah, I think at Games UX, I met Anne. She's the community manager at Guerrilla Games, the people who made Horizon Zero Dawn.
Ooh.
And she was such a nice person. We ate Timbits and drank coffee. I showed her the Canadian way.
There you go.
I guess we shared tips on what we do on a daily basis, what our routine is, right when we start work, and we both came to the conclusion that community management isn't something that you can hang up your hat at the end of the day at 5 or 6 p.m. because you have so many different players around different time zones that you always have to be on the clock. So for us, I guess our day never really ends because we're always checking social media sometimes just to see if anyone pinged us or replied us. That's important to look at, even on the weekends too. So there isn't really I guess an end to our day sometimes. That's just the tip for anyone who wants to get into community management, that it takes up a lot of your time.
It seems like what it is just in general in a lot of creation is just your hours are what you make them.
Yeah.
And it's hard to just stick to the hours, but you probably should.
Yeah, because sometimes I can't even tell if I'm still doing work or if I'm not doing work after 6 p.m. Because I'm just it's I just see people typing and responding to messages. So I just do it here and there whenever I have a little pocket of time to in my day.
Yeah.
After my hours, I guess.
Mm.
But yeah.
And yeah, because it just feels like because the world is getting more connected internet wise, and because time zones all over the place are getting more connected, you can't have that normal schedule per se. Maybe you still have that schedule for very important work you just got to get done that day or whatever, and then there's things that you just have to be flexible on.
Yeah, that's right.
That seems like all creation in some way, especially
this is true
when you rely on the public, and if you're not an industry. I like making cans. That's a weird one. Making a thing like cars or something, you have to constantly be on and just get your community going.
Yep. The conversation never stops in some form or way, which is kind of cool and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah. One more I want to ask about before we end this out. That was, how was it? There was a summit you went to a couple months back. It was
the
game summit or something like that?
Yeah, it was the Games UX Summit.
Okay.
It was held in Toronto, and I think it was a while ago, so my memory might be a little shoddy, but I think it was hosted by Epic Games and Riot, sponsored by Riot, and Ubisoft as well, because we have a Ubisoft office in Toronto. So I think they were the ones who organized the events, and I think a couple other companies sponsored us to make this event happen. I think, I'm not sure. Could be totally wrong. I'm sorry. But they just hosted a bunch of talks from UX and UI designers, and they discussed how to make your game. I guess some of the talks that I attended were dealing with toxicity in game, and it was it was all tied together with user experience, because the way that you design your game also reflects on people's behavior as well and how they react to the game. Let's say League of Legends, for example, because Cam Fung from Riot Games actually came in to give a talk about that, and he was saying how they tried to make at one point League of Legends was a very, very toxic game, which is why I stopped at one point, which was why I stopped playing. I think it's a little bit better now. I haven't went back to it, but I remember they were implementing a system where they rewarded teamwork and communication, and I guess they tried to encourage positive reinforcement among their players to work together to win, I guess. But I think they did a pretty good job reducing toxicity in that sense. Because I don't play it now, so I'm not really sure how to compare the game.
Yeah.
Versus when I played it last. But Cam, he really made some good points, and I think you can find all their talks of the Game Summit on YouTube, which I will also link you in case anyone is also interested in getting into user experience and user interface design.
That is important. Yeah, that's good to know. Okay, yeah. Because, yeah, toxicity is such a problem
Mm-hmm.
in general, and that does drive people away. Toxicity
Mm-hmm.
drives people away from a game, and that just hurts a company so bad. And yeah, League of Legends is just such a big one. It just feels like they're such a behemoth that nothing could ever go wrong for them. But
But they did a good job with trying to reduce the toxicity.
Yeah.
Like I remember, I think they implemented a system where you can choose your role before you enter, like queue up for a game, and it matches you with teammates that have other roles. And I thought that this is a really good solution on their part, because I remember when I got into like a random fives game sometimes with pubs, like people would pick the same role and they would fight over roles, and like that, like, and then having that kind of like tension before a game even starts with their team kind of snowballs, like, I guess later on if someone dies and they're like, oh, I'm blaming that person for being bad, I guess. And
For
then
sure, that does.
so it's good that they kind of implement that system.
Yeah. My problem I've always had with that system though is and it's why I just stopped playing MOBAs for the most part, is it just makes the game so rigid. Like you're required to do this and that, to the point that there's no experimentation on the casual side of things, which is unfortunate. Just as a thing. Like, but talking about dealing with users and like maybe bugs or but if they've ever been mad about just the difficulty curve of the game or something, just something like that, which is just part of the actual design of the game, where they're just actually mad about it. It's not a bug, but just the game itself is inferior to them. Because Halcyon 6 can be difficult when you first play it.
Yeah, like I guess we've had a couple people say that it was really difficult because like they felt that the game threw you right in, and then it just like, you're just basically tossed into like a roller coaster with no seatbelt on, and you're just like and we've also had some people say that it wasn't difficult enough. So we've had a collection of both players. So we can't please everyone, I guess, but we tried our best to balance the game very well. For me, like my personal experience with the game when I first played it, I wasn't a strategy player, so I got lost on like a lot of instances and like what to do. But like as you play more and you spend more time on something, you will eventually get better at it, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. But I guess that's what difficulty settings are for, after all.
Yeah.
Or
because we have like I think about 6 of them.
Ooh.
6. Yeah.
Because I don't remember at the moment the difficulty settings. Like I feel like the best one is if you just make everything kind of a meter. You're like, I want this faction to be this strong, or I want to have this much resources stars. Things like that.
Oh yeah.
But like I think just the more customization you can have to difficulty, the better, in my opinion. Just makes it more fun.
But it also can be overwhelming to new players as well.
That's also true.
Yeah.
And I guess you could have like standard mode, and then here's mode where you can mess with everything. And I remember playing it because I'm like, okay, it's kind of like XCOM, and it's got RPG elements to it. I did like 1 or 2 runs, and I'm like, okay, now I understand what I'm doing wrong, and then I restarted. But yeah, it can get overwhelming for sure, and that's just kind of the thing about strategy games. But overall, I think Halcyon 6 is pretty good once you figure out the loop and how to manage things. It does get easier.
Yeah.
Which it's supposed to get easier if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But that's what difficulty settings are for. But I do think Halcyon 6 is a pretty good game. And I hope it gets on Switch. That'd be good, because just the stories you hear from other developers, they're like, Super Meat Boy. They're like, we got on Switch, and our sales went up as big as they were in like 2016 because of whatever big boost they had back then. So like it hit like 30% increase or something like that. It's like,
oh wow!
So being on there is pretty nice.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So hopefully, you guys can get on there, because it has been pretty nice for all the developers I've seen that have made very quality games. And so hope for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's end this out with one more thing. That's got to be just any bit of advice. It can be for development or for community managing. Just whatever advice you want to give to the listeners.
This is tough. I think you asked me this question last time. And I was like, damn it. It's like, this is the stumper. I don't know. Any advice? Let's see. The advice that I wished that I was given, I guess, when I was starting out in this, was to always, I guess, never be afraid to, I guess, say yes to everything. Or I don't know if that's the right advice to give. But maybe for my personality, like I'm always very cautious and hesitant about doing certain things when I should just like go straight for it and just do it. So for me, I felt that held me back from doing a lot of things because I always did a lot of pre-planning before I even started on anything. So I guess I'm not exactly sure what the question was. Is it for developer or community manager? Because they're both really different.
I'm gonna make it easier. One of each. Advice for community manager and one and developer.
I don't think of two answers.
Just drink a little more and you'll think of something.
Okay. True. Good call. Okay, for community management, I would always say try to be as empathetic as possible and always try to listen to your players and I guess step into their shoes before you react. Because I know sometimes people receive really negative comments and stuff. And obviously no one likes negative comments. But like I remember if I ever, I guess try to remember if you ever encounter these types of situations, just try to remove yourself as a person. Now I just felt like, yeah, be cognitive dissonant. No, I guess try to
psychopath.
Yeah, be a psychopath. This is not good for me here. I would say just to remove yourself from the situation, like the emotional part of the situation, and try to see objectively what is causing the tension and try to tackle the problem, not the person. And just remember that they're frustrated because at the problem, not you. But sometimes they can lash out, but that's not your fault. That's their fault, right? But sometimes you can't really do anything about that, but be understanding. And sometimes just by being like understanding and, just showing the other cheek, people sometimes would apologize for the behavior after they, assessed the situation some more. Because I've had that happen to me where like someone just like lashed out at me and I was like, oh, I'm really sorry that you're experiencing that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, how can I help you? And they're like, oh, I'm actually really sorry about lashing out at you, blah, blah, blah. And then we just like hashed the situation out. So it wasn't like a bad thing.
Yeah.
I didn't come off from that experiences with like negative feelings. And I hope they didn't either. But like, yeah, I guess that having like a really empathetic mindset helped me, or hopefully it helped me. Because I sounded like a psychopath there for a second. I'm not.
There's no way to know. So, no, it sounds like good advice. But so developer advice as well then.
I'm pretty noob as a developer, so I don't know what kind of advice you want from me.
Well, anything you've observed from your coworkers back at the office or anything like that. Just, I guess.
Remotely, so we don't really have an office.
Oh dear.
But I guess like from my past, like working at previous studios, always communicate with your team. Communication is really important. And like you might be really skilled at what you do, but having skills like would be meaningless if you aren't able to communicate that well with your team and what you want to do. So teamwork and communication is really important. And that's
okay. There you go. There's the advice from expert developer Jacqueline Joy here. But, all right, so this has been basically a podcast, and where are things we can find you and Halcyon 6?
You can find us at playhalcyon6game.com or playhalcyon6.com.
Okay, and then your Twitter is Jacqueline Joy.
Or you can just follow our game Twitter. That works too. Yeah, because I think like my Twitter is like hard to spell. I need a
with the Q.
Yeah.
But there's also the company's name is
Massive _damage. Or you could follow us at Play Halcyon 6 Game. Sorry, it's Halcyon 6 Game on Twitter.
Okay.
Sorry for the confusion.
And it can be found on just a PC and tablet.
We're on Steam and we're on iOS.
There you go.
Not Android yet, but
not Android yet. Like that'd be cool. But it's perfect. It's really good for tablets. So hopefully it gets on Switch so they can do whatever people can do whatever they want on that, because that would be a good travel game.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it.
Yeah. So basically, podcast everybody. That's what we had right now. It's pretty good guest here with Jacqueline Joy, and we'll have her again in the future. Because there's always stuff worth learning from Jacqueline Joy.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Oh dear. Well, you better just start making notes right now.
I will.
There you go. I had fun. Hope you're watching. That's what's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.
Bye.